All right, welcome back. I am outside again. It is um, mid 30s here, so it's like tropical. It's great. And I just got out of seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which let me start by first saying that I was not very excited about this movie for some reason. The recent spate of Marvel movies have not quite grabbed me. Black Panther I enjoyed, but admittedly was a bit of a disappointment. I think that Multiverse of Madness was a little forgettable, with some elements that were probably a little boring. And then Love and Thunder just made me angry. I hate that movie so much. But this one I was going into, it doesn't have the best reviews. A lot of it, you're kind of talking about how it's clear that the MCU has lost its way. Um, but I went into it like I went into the other Ant-Man movies thinking, it's Ant-Man. Is it really going to be that good? And I was pretty surprised. I quite enjoyed this movie. I think that there are still some issues with it. One of the things that I really loved about the other movies was that it really grounded itself in as much as a guy talking to ants and controlling ants, grounds itself. But it was right within its wheelhouse. And I think that superhero movies are most successful when the hero is doing what that hero can do. And in the case of the first couple movies, it made them sort of this Edgar Wright um, heist type movie, and it had a cool crew, and it was funny, and the jokes were there, and I loved the repeat jokes, the inside jokes, the running gags. Like, that's what really made that series stand out to me. And this one, I was a little concerned because obviously, even though we're going small, we're going big, right? This is going to be much more substantial. This is going to be much more epic, much more important than the other Ant-Man movies have been. And Paul Rudd is fantastic. He is, he's kind of a weird dude though. He doesn't like sauce. He doesn't put sauce on any of his food, which is, I guess a little strange, but that's whatever. Evangeline Lilly, I don't know. Obviously, a huge fan when she was in Lost. I think she's. I don't know that I'm a huge fan now. Jonathan Majors, though, was absolutely fantastic. This is going to be strange to say, but his face does a lot. He's very emotive, and he was great. Like, he is, I think, along with Paul Rudd, he's the star of this. Michael Douglas is always great. He's just this iconic screen presence. Michelle Pfeiffer, still one of the most beautiful people in the world. God, she's absolutely gorgeous. And she's good in this, but what it does is it does a lot of those standard film tropes where a character has information, and because that character has not shared information, then things go poorly because bad things happen, because they didn't think the other people were ready for the information, or because they didn't want to admit to something, or whatever it is. And so that's kind of the premise of this whole thing is set up on. uh, Actually, going into the quantum realm, I think I'm going to go see this movie again, but in 3D, because the realm, the characters are stunning. It's beautiful. There's some amazing character design, the way the world kind of comes together, even though it is a little shallow. And one thing that kind of bothered me is that Michelle Pfeiffer talked about, she is alone, and she was alone for 30 years. But then, according to this film, there's this whole microcosm, this whole society of hundreds of thousands of people in cities. And wait, well, she spent a good amount of years, or some time at least, with Kang. I'm sorry, spoiler, but whatever. You probably know that if you've watched the trailers or whatever. Speaking of trailers, I did get a little excited. I had seen some snippets. I don't generally watch trailers, but I had seen one, and I thought that we were going to see the Micronauts, which any 1980s comic book geeks will probably remember that. I know that there is a licensing issue, and they are not allowed to use Micronauts in anything for anything. Maybe owned by Hasbro or something. It's owned by a toy company, I think. but I thought maybe they would sneak something in there, but they did not. Still, the society, the it was very John Carpenter of Mars in some ways. Um, they missed some opportunities in there. Like they repeated some lines too many times. They did repeat the Scott is getting beat down, and then he remembers it's for Cassie. And by the way, Cassie, like, good for her to luck into this. And the actress's name is right there at the top of my head, and I cannot think of it right now. She was good. She was pretty good. Good for her for sticking with this and being part of it. Too bad for Michael Pena and them to be cut out of this. As I said earlier, I think they were one of the highlights of the previous films. Uh, Overall, I think that this is a good setup. I was a little, worried, anxious because I think, Spider-Man is great when he's fighting Vulture, and Captain America is great when he's fighting Red Skull. You're fighting these villains that are within your weight class, and Kang is not in Scott Lang's or Ant-Man's weight class. The way they pull it together, though, it makes sense and it works, and definitely stick through the credits, because, as you can imagine, there's a lot of allusions to what is going to be happening, and the true nature of what is there. And if you've seen Loki, I wasn't a huge fan. I like Tom Hiddleston, and the female Loki. I don't know who played her, but anyways, she was great. I didn't like the Loki show, though. But if you have seen it, then this will make a little more sense. But if you haven't seen Loki, I don't think it matters. They do enough explanation and exposition in this. I think it's the best Marvel film that I've seen this year, I think. And I was super excited for Love and Thunder and Black Panther and even Doctor Strange. So it's a little strange to say that, once again, Ant-Man might be one of my most fun, favorite Marvel films. They did a very good job of this. So if you have seen it, please let me know what you think. I think it's going to make a lot of money, and it's definitely setting up that next phase of Marvel films. And cool, we get to see more Ant-Man. Paul Rudd is awesome. All right, I guess I'll see you at the next movie.